Good morning to all our fibromyalgia warriors across the internet. I just wanted to say hello. This is a special edition of Fibromyalgia Advocacy in Action with some amazing advocates. This is our leadership team, our A team. So we want to do some quick introductions and then we'll get into the discussion with you. So I want to introduce from my top left corner, the co-founder of Veteran Voices for Fibromyalgia and the Fibromyalgia Pain Chronicles, Kristal. Say hello, Kristal.
Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning. And you're hailing from Ohio, representing the state of Ohio today.
Yes.
Okay, then we're going to go over to the awesome tag team sisters of, they're based in California. We have co-founder and health advocate of Looms for Lupus, Estela Mata.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And then we have the co-founder of Looms for Lupus and health advocate for lupus, Juana Mata.
Good morning, everyone.
We're trying to rev up here. I think I needed to drink my coffee ahead of time. So everyone, good morning. I'm Melissa Tallwar, the executive director of the Support Fibromyalgia Network. So welcome. I'm testing out new things, so hopefully the audio works. Please let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hello, drop an emoji, let us know, wave if you're in a state and want to join us too with advocacy. We'd love to hear from you. Like and share this content with all the fibromyalgia warriors around the internet, because we're going to be talking about advocacy. It's go big or go home when it comes to fibromyalgia advocacy right here. So let's get started with our conversation because it's going to be a good one. And I know we're reaching right now all across the internet. So we have a lot of people on Facebook, we have YouTube, Twitter, and then we'll get this content up to Instagram as well, just to tag all our pages as we go along. So let's just start with a quick recap for everyone for fibromyalgia advocacy. So quick recap. Fibromyalgia advocacy from our side was launched in September of 2019. We had a great crew go to Capitol Hill in person, join us for meeting with our representatives in person. We had the amazing tag team duo of the Mata sisters join us and joined the leadership team over there. And then in March 2020, we did another in-person event and we escaped Capitol Hill because we were there as it got locked down, but we still had our meetings. We still took our meetings for fibromyalgia, bringing us back to 2021. May 11th, Kristal joined our leadership team and we took on our virtual advocacy meetings. Over 70 meetings with our legislative leaders. We had some new advocates join us. We're always loving all this advocacy training. So that is our quick recap of what we bring us here today. And we've been doing our follow-up. So we're going to just have open discussion of kind of where we're at, what we are learning as advocates, and then get into what's next and how you can get involved. So let's start out with Kristal. The question here is, where are we currently at? And this can be literal, and also where do you feel we are at within the fibromyalgia community?
Well, I want to backtrack just a little bit. In 2019 and 2020, you ladies actually were building the relationships and the stepping stones so that we can move forward and emote, more effective change and in advocacy, especially in legislative advocacy. And then moving to 2021 is really when we came out the gate and hosted a little bit over 70 meetings, or around 70 meetings with congressional and Senate leaders on May 11th. And that was a pivotal point where we start asking, or quote unquote, asking for support for things needed for the fibromyalgia community to propel us forward in the right direction, as far as research goes and correct, up-to-date information on tax-funded, like healthcare related sites and organizations. And from there, because you all started the process of building the relationships and we had those discussions, and then moving forward, we will be continuing the legislative advocacy because we've established the first steps, have those relationships in place so that we can continue with our advocacy asks and garner more support from our legislative leaders in getting what is needed for the fibromyalgia community.
Exactly. Building up those relationships and moving from there. So I was excited to have you on board because you also connected us to other leaders that did some video trainings for us. So we have those available online for people to watch, and we're going to be launching more of that as our team leadership. You know, we meet together, we develop the program together, we're adding more leadership team members and more advocates that can inspire you, more people who are involved in Capitol Hill as well. Estela, where do you feel we're at with fibromyalgia advocacy?
You know, I think first and foremost, I want to thank you because you have been the leader from the beginning. You got us all started, got us all grouped together. So it's been an amazing journey. And I think one of the things that I admire the most, I think, is from all the advocates is being vulnerable, sharing their story, and, just empowering them to do so, and then watching them meet with legislators, I think has been probably for me the best part of it all, because you don't realize that your voice can be amplified and that you can bring in that personal touch and what is needed for the legislators to understand what we as fibromyalgia patients are going through, caregivers or loved ones, because it is difficult to ensure that other people understand when they don't have the condition. So, I do want to thank all the advocates for stepping up, for being vulnerable and sharing their stories. And I think, where we're at right now is, we already gained the momentum. We already started, we kicked this off. And now I'm just excited to see what comes up next.
Well, thank you so much for highlighting all the amazing and brave advocates, right, that have joined us. I know some people, it was a lot to travel, first of all, to Capitol Hill, but then even the virtual meetings took up a lot of energy. They were going really, really fast. So we appreciate everyone that's joined us, and we're going to continue on, and we want to invite new advocates to the table as well. Okay, Juana, where do you feel we're at with fibromyalgia advocacy?
Well, thank you, Melissa. Like Estela said, we thank you for starting us with this, with the fibromyalgia, going to Capitol Hill and sharing our stories. But I think that where we're at right now is just building those relationships, not only with um, with the with the patients, but with everyone else, just working together. I think we're gonna continue to move forward, but we do need unity, and we just need to be together to get to where we really want to be.
Exactly. Unity, working together. That's why we're working as a team, and we want to continue this, and we're embracing it. I know I tell people I was really hesitant at first as like, what did I just do? But we have to embrace it. And the great thing is having a team around you of people that, can empower you as well, even though you may not know things, and we dig in and do research together. It's super important. I just shared in the comments a link to get involved. So I think we want to grow this program and really develop it out and involve different communities. We want to make sure that we have the men with fibromyalgia involved too, the youth involved with advocacy, veterans involved with advocacy, all across the board. So this is just to everyone out there, please join in and get involved. New programs are being developed as we as a team organize ourselves and get boosted and empowered. Okay, next question. What have you learned about, I guess, what have you learned from all of this? And let's start out with Kristal.
That's a very broad-based question. Here's the thing. It's, again, it goes back to realizing and learning just how powerful the impact a person can have by sharing their experience, whether it is on social media, at events, engaging our legislators. For me, it's always a great reminder of how powerful it is, and then learning how to springboard off of everyone's personal health experiences with fibromyalgia to continue propelling it forward and making it stronger, and And, you're learning how to navigate the system as a team in a cohesive manner, and tailoring your approach with different quote unquote powers to be who could help us with engaging or soliciting their support. So, and again, those are really people skills, which is very important in advocacy, and meeting everyone where they're at. That's a good reminder. I always tell people, you got to meet each other where you're at. And the whole process is just an ongoing reminder or learning or curve or educational experience that keep that status quo of meeting people where they're at, not just advocates, not just patients, not just caregivers, but our state and federal legislators as well, entities who don't have fibromyalgia, organizations or people who don't have fibromyalgia, meeting them where they're at, educating them in a positive, impactful manner, which helps garner their support as well. So, some things that are a continuous reminder and learning experience as you move along, which strengthens, if you keep that in the back of your mind, it really strengthens the advocacy initiatives you're doing, and not forgetting that, we're a totem pole, really, and we need our base. The only way we can continue this and be held up is recognizing that our base is just as important as the middle and the top, and everyone is equal members of this initiative, regardless if they're just someone sharing one of our posts on social media to we're interfacing with the senator. We got to treat each other equally, recognize everybody's skill set. I don't know everything. I don't know how to do everything, and recognizing that, those areas that I'm not proficient in, asking for that support in those areas, and being humble and realizing that you can't do everything. And this is why a team effort is so important, and recognizing hey, Estela and Juana, they're on point on bringing senators and congressional leaders on board with how charismatic they are. And Melissa, with your research and technological background, and then, me trying to rah-rah the community. It's we all have to recognize we all have equal parts of importance in this journey, and not forget that, and continue to celebrate that, and bring more people on and promote their skill sets to keep the ball rolling as a fine-tuned machine, because that's the only way you're going to accomplish anything, that everyone's equal here, regardless of what we're doing.
I love that so much, because we're playing off of our strengths, each other, and then everybody's voice makes a difference. Because I know a lot of people can't necessarily participate or go to Capitol Hill, but you can still send in letters and write and do calls and still join or share a post, whatever energy levels you can contribute. And working as a team, I know we all have our strengths, but we're learning from each other this way. And then we just support each other. So I love that. Estela, what have you learned?
I think, just to piggyback on what Kristal was saying, I think everybody's power could be the voice, it could be their story, but I think once we allow them to feel that love and that support, I think that's what has been the most meaningful. For everyone that shares that letter, like Kristal said, everyone that even talks about it, shares their story with someone else, engages, maybe if they don't want to speak up, maybe engages somebody else that wants to or is willing to. I think, community support has been probably one of the things that, again, I've admired the most. And remember, it's not about us, and it's not about us doing this or checking off a box okay, we already, met with legislators, we're done. There's a lot of work that comes into it. But the good thing is that we are, like Kristal said, we're rallying up everyone else that can help us, because my story is only one story. Kristal's story is one story. Juana's story, your story, we're only one story, and we cannot make change if we do it alone. And again, I think the one thing that I've learned the most has been, that you can't do things alone, that you need to work together, work as a community, be vulnerable, be respectful, and celebrate every win, because just getting up is a win. sharing your story is even better. And, or sending a letter or an email or making a phone call. So, I've learned that support has been an essential part of our team.
Well, that's something I need to do more of, is celebrate those small wins. And we need to remind people out there, this is grassroots, right? I remember standing outside of Capitol Hill and we were waiting for the Uber, and Estela's like, wait, this is your organization doing this? Like, there wasn't any other like stuff, the higher up or a service or a lobby agency like working with us, because I didn't realize that's what a lot of other organizations do, or they contract out something else. So you should have seen Estela's face as we were away. I was like, well, yeah, I guess, like, yes. So just to remind people, this is all grassroots. So this is coming from all of us. We're doing what we can. I mean, we've had some amazing people talk to us that Kristal brought in, her friends, with Brian, Tally, Michael, and Candace. So even with Candace giving us some amazing instruction and stuff, which we'll get into a little bit on what's next, it's been just reaching out to our contacts, figuring out what we can gain from this knowledge. But this is all grassroots. This is all grassroots advocacy. So that's what we're bringing to the table.
Yes,
Okay.
and I want to add, and when a lot of times like that, you were like, you know what, like I don't know if we can do this, and I was like, we got this. And again, that cheerleading effort, me saying, you know what, like I know we're a small group at the beginning, but look at where we're at now. We got this, and it was like, we need to train people, we need to meet. How are we going to do this? How are we going to get there? And it was like, I had faith. I'm like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. You got this. And it is incredible to see how it was just a small group, which was your group, that was leading the efforts. And again, I think it's been amazing, and it's just going to get better.
Oh, it is. And just to let Anthony know, we do need more men's stories. We had some men with fibromyalgia join us. They've always been there with us. So take a look at those pictures, look at them, connect with them. But we want more men involved with our advocacy effort. Okay, so Juana, what have you learned from this journey?
Well, I mean, Kristal and Estela said everything, that we are working together. Just the hope when we first started, Melissa, when we invited Estela and I, her daughters, and everyone, I mean, we're in it together. So what I have learned is that as a group, we can make a difference. As a group, we can really have that voice, one person at a time, working together. We are making a difference, and just working together. I mean, it's powerful. So that's what I have learned, that the unity again is important, that being humble and learning from one another and just moving forward.
Well, I've been fortunate to learn so much from all of you and giving me a lot of strength, because I just wasn't sure. This is a big deal for our community, something I've always wanted to see accomplished, but not having the experience creates a lot of self-doubt. So it's nice to be working and being able to talk through the ideas and be like, is this what we need to say? Because it is confusing. There's no textbook example of how to do this unless you have some lived experience. So I really appreciate all of you and all the advocates out there sharing their experience and joining us. I want to give a shout out to some of the people watching. Suzanne joined us too, Fibro Mom Vlog. Hello. Happy Monday to all our warriors, from Robin. Thanks for getting the message out. So that's why we're here. Teamwork. We have Graham, and then of course Anthony, who mentioned men's voices. So bring on the men, bring on the veterans. Youth. Estela had her daughters join. It was an incredible experience to actually sit across the table from her daughters and speak, and then being from a youth with fibromyalgia, seeing it, and I'm like, we got to change this. We got to change this for people coming up newly diagnosed fibromyalgia, because those of us have been diagnosed for a while, we're tired and we want to see these changes made. I would love to see them made sooner. So that's why we're just taking a really big approach to how we do fibromyalgia advocacy. Okay, the big question. what's next? So what is next for fibromyalgia advocacy? And you can go into details, Kristal, because I know we did send out an email for follow-up. So you were in one of the meetings too. And I don't know if we should mention the senator yet or not, but we take it away with some of like what you can talk. I don't know if it's allowed. Are we yet?
We can, you know what, here's the thing. We elect these officials, and it's important to recognize that while they have a lot of ability to bring about what we're asking for, at the end of the day, they are our voted in representatives, and that we have to, again, meet them where they're at, see it as a team approach, stay in contact. But before going into depth, I'm not going to mention the senator's name, and I'll explain why, because we all came up with a plan, so it's cohesive, coordinated, and organized. And our community has been so passionate, especially after May 11th, that we don't want 5,000 people calling, right? But one thing I want to point out, which I feel is the epitome and the drive for all of this, is that over the past year and a half, I see, I've received messages. I've seen the messages that you have all received from people with our community, like, thank you for leading this. Thank you for taking charge. But what I want people to understand is all we did is build the ship, and it's up to the community to steer the ship. And that decision where to steer it is up to the community. So again, it's a team effort, and it's just, we brought the foundation and said, hey, we're going to do this, and we got these things in place. Now everybody can get on and steer us in the right direction, because we're no different or better or necessarily more educated than someone else on the system. And that's why it's important to bring everybody on and use the strengths. Now, going back to your question, we really sat down, all of us, whether it was, video meetings or emails back and forth, was, okay, we first created a list of potential champions to go to with our advocacy asks. And we're going in order from our strongest champion that we've identified. And if for some reason that champion doesn't take on this cause, that's fine, because we still have a list of many others who expressed a lot of interest and support, even said, we had some senators and congressional leaders say, please keep us apprised. Let us know if someone else picks this up. And people will say, well, why won't they pick it up? It might be because healthcare or disabilities is not like a committee or area that they are experts in or serve on, but they want to support it. So we find that person, that champion who is supports robust funding for medical research or serves on a health committee. If we get that person to pick it up, then we go back to that other person, then they could co-sponsor. And like a bill or co-sponsor a request for more funding for research. And that's kind of an example of where individuals such as Candace Lerman of Rare Candace and ITP patient driven research comes in, or Michael Hartley, who is the founder of Swing State Strategies, is tapping their knowledge and understanding how those inner workings work with our legislators. And so we created this list and then wrote a letter of request or appropriation funding support request that went through many rewrites and many reviews, including reviews on a couple of experts outside of our team, just to say, hey, how's this jargon sound? Then we sent it off. And then, it's kind of like once we set it off, which was September 15th, a month ago, and we kind of are like, okay, we'll give it 6 weeks-ish. And then, I'll make a phone call to say, hey, did you receive this? And if they don't bite, well, guess what? We have this other list of potential champions, and we just go through this list because ultimately someone will pick it up and run with us. Well, we hope they run with us or run for us, because quite frankly, I can't really run anymore, metaphorically, physically, but that's the process. And one of the things as a team that we really looked at was we looked at what the funding was for 2020, 2021, and the projected funding for 2022, which was projected fibromyalgia would get funding for research for about 30 million. That's what is projected.
Which I have never seen so high before, by the way. Like somewhere they must have updated the report.
And the other thing is that goes back to everything you started in 2019, moving forward to 2020. And then that projected amount came out like 7 weeks after we took all of those meetings. And I truly believe that everyone's story helped propel that amount up. And so looking at that, it was like, okay, so do we ask for more funding for 2022? Or since this seems to be going in the right direction, let's focus on 2023. Because what happens is when May comes around again, we're kind of at this cusp of when they vote for funding for research, which like in Congress comes like in June. So that's too short of a period. So now we have all this time to work on 2023 because we got 2022 set. And so that gives us more time and also a feasible request because we requested up to 50 million in funding for research for fibromyalgia with some very specific research points to be done looking at the neurological underlinings. So that is the focus so that everyone understands why haven't we pushed forward with 2022? And that's because there was a projected almost double the amount of funding appropriated for fibromyalgia research because it was at 14 million. And again, all that came about because of everybody sharing their story, calling their senators, calling their congressional leaders, posting stuff on social media. So I want everyone to know that that amount that's projected for 2022 is because of all of their personal stories and engaging in legislative advocacy. That's why that happened.
Exactly, because we had never seen, I mean, I had done past videos where I've done the screenshots of the reporter, and we had never seen those numbers be like that before. Although now we have a new challenge is like, where is the money getting invested? So that's something that we've transitioned to really discuss as a team and come up with a new, because when we started, our asks have changed. And so now it's evolved to look at an investment of funds from the NIH specifically for reclassification of fibromyalgia to a neurological condition. So we want to match what ACR, American College of Rheumatology, describes fibromyalgia as, get us more into the investment of the research so we can see if we can reclassify it as a neurological condition. So I just got a message shortly. I know Juana. Okay, so Juana, you have to leave. Do you want to say any last remarks before you leave?
Well, I just want to thank you, Melissa, for putting this together. And again, just, working together, we are making a difference and we will continue to make a difference with our community. And that's all I can say. I mean, just the unity, working together. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Juana, for your time. I know we're doing work here at the same time. So I appreciate you. Bye. So this is what's next, and we'll get to Estela too, and like what is next. But this is the stuff that we've been putting together. We've been analyzing how do we get the NIH to invest in the research we're kind of looking for, because if you actually dive into the details of some of the research that's getting invested, it's cross diseases. They're still looking at it in comparative to things like chronic pain, but we want specific pathophysiology of fibromyalgia. So those are things that we're developing with our asks, and we're reaching out to the NIH scientists to see if they can also champion for us. So Estela, where do you feel we are at, or what's next for the fibromyalgia advocacy?
I think continuing what we're doing and continuing to update everyone where we're at, so they all know that, even though they're right now, we're not asking of them to do anything specific, that there are, that we are working in the background. And, the worst thing you can do is not give updates or not let people know, after asking them, hey, come share your story. Let's make a difference. And then they don't hear back from you. So I think what we're doing right now is the great step of showing everyone that we are really in this together, that we want you to be part of every single thing that we are doing. And, I think one of the things that you guys were mentioning was, why are we doing this now? And I know Kristal was saying something about like we're looking at perhaps like 2022 or 2023. There has been an increase in funding, and I do agree with you, Kristal. I think it was all the movement that we made as a team, starting in 2019 with the first group of people that went, leading up to now. I think we built the momentum, and we have kind of brought fibromyalgia onto the map. And now that we are there, and now that people are starting to listen to us, I think is when we just have to continue to fuel up and continue to push forward, because so many other autoimmune conditions or people living with autoimmune conditions have an overlap of fibromyalgia. And we are seeing that a lot more now than ever. And how do you even find that out is by connecting with a community. I just met a couple of ladies, and, we're having a conversation about some people that have MS and fibromyalgia, and, other people that have so many other overlaps. So, they come in a little cluster almost, all these conditions. So I think we shouldn't just look at, okay, you have fibromyalgia, come join us. It's not about that. Anyone that has fibromyalgia, whether you have another disease, another autoimmune condition, we can all just come in together. So I don't want you to feel that, oh, I have, like, let's say lupus, I'm already advocating for lupus. Like, let me just hone in on lupus and not do advocacy for fibromyalgia, because a lot of times there's an overlap, and people need to know that there is an overlap and that you're going through this, so they can also feel empowered and share their story. In my sister's case, she has lupus and fibromyalgia. I was able to get a diagnosis of fibromyalgia because I had to get everything else ruled out before I got it. So it took me forever to get diagnosed. But again, you guys wouldn't know unless I share my story. So just to go back, I think what's next is really to get the voice out there, grow our team, let people know that, we are here for you. Come to us, and you can join the team and make a difference.
Well, thank you for bringing that up too. And there was different components of it is to take apart and just recognize, because what we're trying to do here, and the reason even for these videos, is to create a sense of transparency and trust. Because sometimes when you share your stories out in the internet world, you're like, whatever happened to that? Did I make a difference? So we are reminding people and that, yes, you are making a difference. We're connecting the dots for you. We don't want you to just be confused. We want you to know what we're doing. We are working in the background. Sometimes you may not hear from us because we also have fibromyalgia and other conditions, and there's a lot going on in our personal lives too, but we're working hard behind the scenes to make things happen. And doing these videos too, we just want to present where we're at. It is a marathon. We're going to have to go at this again. And I know I foresee something of a virtual Hill Day sometime in early spring, because we got to get it, as Kristal mentioned, before those budgets close, and just remind them about 2023. So we're always working like a year ahead, which can be frustrating, but we're starting this. And that's what we had to do. We had to get started because we looked around at other communities and they were getting these things done. And it was like, why does fibromyalgia not have this? Is there someone working on this and we don't know? So that's why it's like, just come together. Let's do this. Let's bring other people involved, get people, build the team, as everyone's mentioned. And it's definitely very important. So the next thing is getting involved. So Kristal has really done, I was impressed with, I've learned from her, like team captain, like running the team and like getting people. So Kristal, what are some of your advice for getting involved or encouraging people to get involved with this? Because sometimes it's intimidating, right? You might get intimidated, but what would you say to people getting involved? Because we need millions of voices. It'd be awesome. There's millions of us. Let's get it done.
Well, the biggest thing is to identify with everyone, which we've talked about in the past, and I'll relay here real quick, a recap, is letting everyone know there's different facets of involvement, which can meet what you can do based on your daily schedule, your daily needs, and your health. So, you know, maybe you're not able to join in person in DC or virtually because of your health or because your personal obligations or work, but you could email your representatives or call, and it's usually a 2 to 5 minute phone call with one of their staffers, but also recognize that our senators and Congress leaders, staffers, they have a lot of power to emote the change that we're advocating for. So that is one thing I want people to understand, like not to get discouraged if you speak to a staffer. Like a lot of times it might be, I might speak with the veteran staffer or, you know, a legislative aide. You know, those people are the pinpoints that do the nuts and bolts for things for their congressional leader or senator. Understanding that, and I've done this, and I also do it because it's important to utilize the space of social media, but also to show people that, like, I have put out stuff on social media and I have tagged my representatives, and people have seen I've gotten a response. So social media in this day and age has become a foothill for getting information out and getting a response. And personally, I've also shared when I've emailed my senators and Congress leaders and their response back, and I've snap captured those emails and I've posted them on social media, tagging them, thanking them for following up with me and their input. And so there's so many different levels that, you know, it could be you share one of our posts and you tag your congressional leader or senator, or you create your own post or your own write-up or video on social media and you tag your senators and Congress leaders. You send an email, you call. If you can, participating an advocacy day virtually, if you're able to go to DC. So there's so many layers of involvement and they're all equally important. Like I said, just a few examples of where I've put stuff out on social media and have received a response from like that senator's office, that congressional leader's office, the state representatives. They do pay attention, but also be cognizant that they're inundated with constituents reaching out. So respect the fact that it might take some time. It might take 4 to 6 weeks for them to cultivate and fully create a thorough response of support or addressing what we're talking about and what we need. And so, yeah, there's just so many ways to be involved, and every level of involvement is equally important.
Exactly. Just, you know, every level is important for what, and learn. Like, we have a love of learning at the Support Fibromyalgia Network. We love people who are interested in just learning, embracing. We want to take down barriers to learning. This isn't something where it's a gatekeeper, like only for a select few. We're really trying to broaden, if people are interested in getting involved with advocacy, that you're able to on different levels. And I think I've learned a lot from Estela. Estela, like, you got involved in a different level with local and then built it up that way, like you and Juana. And then you've been represented. I mean, I just saw your interview, even though it was completely in Spanish, with the senators and who represent you. But it's just like, do you have tips for people to get involved at that level, like starting out with proclamations, working your way up as well?
Well, I think, you know, yes, you're right. We have been able to build a relationship, and I think it all starts with speaking up, right? If you don't speak up and if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Really is what always, that's like my little motto of like, if you want change, if you want it, then you need to make it happen. So that's how we started. Yes, we started raising awareness. Once we realized that we didn't have a limit on where we can share our story, then we knew, okay, this could go a little bit further. We started going out of our support groups, out of our community, into meeting with our local, local leaders, like our mayor. We started requesting proclamations in our city. Then we realized we could do it in other cities because we had people coming to our support group that lived in surrounding cities. So then we started doing it in their cities. At one point, we were able to get proclamations in up to 15 cities. We were then invited by a team because, like I said, and everyone has been saying this, we can't do it alone, by our friend Chris. I was going to say Kristal von Reisfeld. That would have been Christine von Reisfeld. I have Kristal in my brain. Christine von Reisfeld, to join them to get a proclamation for the state at the state level. So when we were up, we were in Sacramento. We joined someone else that invited us to speak to legislators there. And before we went to get the proclamation or accept the proclamation with other organizations, we had some meetings. And that was the first time that we realized, oh my goodness, they are human. The legislators are human. And we were talking to them, sharing our story. And that kind of gave us a bigger motivator to, hey, if we were able to do it with our mayor, and we were able to connect with him, and now we're able to connect with our assembly members, why can't we go a little bit higher, right? So then, you start going to your local state senator, then, go to DC. So everything really for us in 2018 was when we realized the power of advocacy. We realized the power that we had in our stories. We realized that our story was unique because it was ours, and that others needed to hear the story because they needed to feel empowered. And then we needed to also hear other stories to be able to share them and bring that visibility to them. Because like you guys said, not everyone can go or travel or fly or do any of that. And some people may not even want to have their face or their story out there for different reasons. And we have to respect that. So that's how we started, and that's how we continue to do it. So meeting with our Congress women, Grace Napolitano, building that relationship, knowing that, she has been so supportive throughout the years. It feels great because not only do you have that opportunity to, again, share your story, but share other stories and help where you can. It's just, I guess, going back to maybe what tips or what would I want people to take from this is knowing that your story matters. Your story is really what needs to be shared. And even if you think, well, what do I have to offer? And I remember this from when we were doing the training for Advocacy Day, and we had the team meet up, and just saying, I don't know what I can share, or what do I say? And then when you give them that power and you say, well, tell me what your story is, and you hone in on your story matters because of this, and we can give so many examples, but again, I think it comes down to your story is unique, and your story is important, and you are important. And also creating these relationships with your community, with everyone else is very important, because you want to be part of a community. You never want to feel alone. It is very hard and difficult to be living with a chronic condition, and understanding that you have the power to be able to reach out to someone. And we are here. And if we are not in your city, we could connect you with others, So again, don't feel alone. There's someone out there with you, and share your story because your story matters.
Yes, exactly. And the both of you have done an amazing job at building local relationships in your community and building up from there, both on the patient and leadership, legislative side in each of your states, and have grown that way with even proclamations on a state level. So I know it was really cool. I live in California with Looms for Lupus. So we had the senator announce the fibromyalgia proclamation. I know Kristal with Ohio. So it's just like, see, there's a lot that you can do, and please learn from these wonderful individuals, these advocates, learn from all of us. And that's what it's all about. And I love that people are opening up and sharing their story and asking questions. It's okay to ask questions, and figure out how you want to be involved in different levels. And there's so much to it for fibromyalgia advocacy. But I know we're hitting close to, so we're at 45 minutes, so we're doing good. So we can upload this to other sites. Any closing remarks from the team before we sign off for today? Kristal, any closing remarks?
So I would, just to share again that your experience is pivotal. It is important. It's your personal experience, your personal story, your observations of a loved one living with fibromyalgia or another chronic illness. It's pivotal in emoting change, and having those discussions and conversations, whether in person, on social media, emailing your representatives, calling, your story with, just sharing 2 or 3 minutes of it, it really, really does emote change. And not just for funding or legislative changes, but it helps promote awareness. It helps promote understanding. It helps sharing your story, with people that have connections to connect you with other people, so that you can, continue on a relationship building journey to get the word out there. And in the end of the day, when you look at when great things happen, it all started with a person's story, and that person's story brought in other people and their stories, and not just in the fibromyalgia community. I see this in the veteran community. I see this in the lupus community. I've seen it in the chronic fatigue community, and just communities as a whole. HIV, I look at all these different communities, even rare diseases, and that how someone's story was the driving force to positive changes.
So keep on sharing those stories. And again, we're connecting the dots for people, because I've shared my story and I was like, whatever happened to that? So that's a big change for us too. We want to make sure and just remind you again that your story does matter. You are making a difference. Estela, any closing remarks before we sign off?
Well, also for the loved ones and the caregivers, because I know when we, at me as a mother, when my daughter was diagnosed, I needed to be the voice for her. So it's very important to also recognize that you don't have to be living with a illness or with a condition to amplify your voice or your story. I advocated for my daughter, and advocacy doesn't just happen, with legislators. You also have to self-advocate, be a self-advocate and advocate for yourself and your loved ones. So, early diagnosis and just continuing to advocate for others could also be helpful. So we want stories that, highlight those caregivers that either struggle or can explain what their child is going through or their loved one. We also want to hear stories of those that have struggled to get a diagnosis. And so your story, no matter what your story is, and no matter how simple you think your story is, like, oh, it's not a big deal, like, I'm good. Your story is meaningful. Everyone's story is meaningful. And so I just want to, again, encourage everyone to feel connected, to stay connected, and to know that their story does matter. And whether you're men, women, or a child living with these conditions, just remember that your condition does not define you. And just by you sharing the story, you are not just the condition you're raising awareness for. This is just a part of your life. So I wanted to say that, because sometimes, we feel like, well, I don't want to be an advocate for this because I don't want to wear it on my sleeve and be like, hi, I'm Estela and I have fibromyalgia. That's not the story all the time. I'm Estela, I'm a mother, I work, I do so many other things. I'm an advocate. And yes, I just happen to have fibromyalgia. So, I do want everyone to just, recognize that and feel empowered. And if at all, and if you don't want to join or share your story, that's perfectly fine, because then you can just share our stories and then, you can still help. So it's just good. And I needed to bring that little laughter, because I know some people just don't want to share their stories. And I've been told, well, why do you do that? Like, it doesn't, like, why are you involved with mental health? And I'm like, because it that's part of my health. Like, it's important. Well, why are you doing this with youth? Because my children and, the future generations, my grandchildren, are going to benefit from it. Well, why do you do this? Because I care.
That's perfect. We do care about the fibromyalgia community. And thank you again for bringing in the caregivers, because that's a big thing with getting caregivers involved. We had caregivers get involved. They were at the Hill with us too, helping their fibromyalgia advocate at the Hill. So we do invite all kinds of people to get involved, not just even from the patient side. So clinicians, researchers. So we've been tagging a lot of our researchers and in brain health and all of them, and recruiting them over to the side. So providers out there, anyone that wants to get involved with this, please join us in our efforts. Thank you so much to Kristal, Estela, Juana. You're an amazing team to work with. I love it. I'm learning so much. I appreciate all that you do. I feel excited for this new year. We're going to rock it with Takeover as tag teams. I'm all like excited for your wrestling belts and all of that too. So we can show those off. Look at the pictures. Kristal did an amazing job with her picture, a gung ho. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in, leaving your comments. Stay tuned, get involved. We did put more information on the Support Fibro website, but we do have a Google form that you can fill out if you would like more information from us. And we'll be doing more advancements in this program very soon. So thank you. Bye.
Bye.